Welcome to Africa Untold, the channel where we uncover the stories of courage, legacy, and resistance that the world has tried to erase. When we think of warriors, most imagine knights in Europe or samurai in Japan, but Africa's warriors were just as powerful, and their stories are rarely told. This is not a tale of defeat. This is a tale of fire, discipline, and the human spirit. Today, we journey into the lives of Africa's greatest warriors, Shaka Zulu, Samory Touré, and the fearless generals who stood against impossible odds. Prepare yourself, because this is not just history. This is Africa Untold. Africa was never a land waiting to be conquered. It was a continent of empires, each with armies trained in discipline, courage, and strategy. From the sands of the Sahara to the grasslands of the Zulu, every society had its defenders. Spears were not only weapons, they were symbols of heritage. Shields were not only for protection, they carried the identity of a people. The warrior spirit was passed from father to son, mother to daughter. It was about more than battle. It was about guarding the sacred bond between people and land. And when foreign powers marched in with guns and arrogance, they did not find weakness. They found a storm of resistance. The story of Shaka Zulu is not one of comfort and privilege. It begins in shadows. He was born the son of a minor chief, but his mother Nandi was cast aside. Shaka grew up carrying the sting of rejection, mocked by other children, treated as less by his own people. Every insult was a wound, but also a spark. Deep inside, a fire raged, a fire no humiliation could put out. As he grew older, that fire turned into discipline. Where others played, Shaka studied. Where others fought with blind rage, he fought with vision. He watched every movement, every weakness, every opportunity. On the battlefield, he was not simply a fighter, he was a thinker. He read his enemies as though they were open books, striking with precision that stunned even seasoned warriors. Step by step, Shaka rose, not because someone handed him power, but because he earned it. Inch by inch, blood by blood, his brilliance could no longer be ignored, and when the moment came for him to claim the leadership of the Zulu, Shaka did not simply take command of a tribe. He reimagined it. He reshaped it. He transformed it into something far greater, an empire that would echo across history. Shaka Zulu's rise is more than a tale of power. It is the story of a boy who began with nothing, and through unbreakable will, carved his place among legends. Shaka did not fight like his ancestors. He invented new ways of war. He replaced the long throwing spear with the ikwa, a short, deadly stabbing spear. This forced warriors into close combat, where courage and strength mattered more than distance. His bullhorn formation became legendary. The chest held the enemy. The horns encircled them, and the loins stood ready as reserves. It was a strategy so effective that European generals studied it years later. Shaka also changed discipline itself. His warriors marched barefoot for miles, trained until exhaustion, and ate simple rations to stay lean and fast. To his enemies, they were not men. They were shadows of death. Under Shaka, the Zulu kingdom expanded at lightning speed. Villages fell, chiefs surrendered, and entire regions trembled at the sound of Zulu war chants. But Shaka was not only a conqueror. He organized administration, restructured the army into regiments by age, and established systems that bound loyalty to the state. His leadership turned the Zulu into a machine of power, feared across southern Africa. For a time, Shaka Zulu stood as one of the most dominant leaders the continent and the world had ever seen. The tale of Samory Touré begins far from the throne of power. He was not born into riches or destined royalty. In his youth, he was a trader, moving from town to town across West Africa. For a brief and painful time, he even tasted the chains of slavery, but chains could not hold a spirit like his. Samory fought his way to freedom, and from that moment on, he swore that no foreign hand would ever rule his people. With courage and strategy, he began gathering followers. At first, there were few men who believed in his vision, but through clever alliances, diplomacy, and sheer determination, Samory transformed himself from a wandering trader into a commander. Step by step, he forged an army, not of mercenaries, but of devoted warriors, willing to lay down their lives for their homeland. From this force, the Wassoulou Empire was born, a realm stretching across what we know today as Guinea, Mali, and Côte d'Ivoire. Samory was not just a king. He was the architect of a dream, an Africa strong enough to stand against the tide of conquest sweeping the continent. But across the horizon, danger loomed. The French colonial empire, armed with rifles and cannons, turned its gaze toward West Africa. To them, Samory's resistance was a small obstacle, one they expected to crush with ease. Yet, when their soldiers marched forward, they did not find a frightened ruler waiting to surrender. They found a lion. Samory's warriors struck with speed, intelligence, and unbreakable will. For years, he defied one of the greatest powers of the age, proving that Africa would not kneel quietly. For 16 long years, Samory Touré led one of the most impressive resistance campaigns in African history. He trained his men with modern rifles, imported through trade, and drilled them in strict formations. But his true brilliance lay in mobility. When French columns advanced, Samory's armies vanished into the forests. When forts fell, he built new ones deeper inland. His people learned to fight as guerrillas, striking fast, melting into the land, and forcing the French to chase shadows. He became more than a king. He became the unbreakable spirit of West Africa's refusal to bow. But Africa's story is bigger than Shaka or Samory. Across the continent, others rose in defiance. In Sierra Leone, Bibera turned the jungles into traps during the hot tax war against the British. His poisoned arrows and ambushes terrified even soldiers with rifles. In Ghana, the Ashanti Empire produced warrior kings who stood against the British. And when men hesitated, Ja Asantewa, the Queen Mother, stepped forward. She declared boldly, "If the men will not fight, then the women will." Her leadership became a beacon of African pride. These warriors were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for dignity, the right to exist as free people. Yet courage came with sacrifice. Cities burned, families were broken, and countless warriors fell. Colonizers often had more guns, more soldiers, and more resources. Eventually, many African kingdoms were overwhelmed, but the empires could never erase the memory. Oral traditions, songs, and stories carried the names of warriors like Shaka, Samory, Bibera, and Ja Asantewa. Their bodies may have fallen, but their spirits marched on. The warriors of Africa left behind lessons that remain powerful even today. Shaka Zulu taught the world that discipline and innovation can transform even the weakest into the strongest. Samory Touré proved that mobility and strategy can challenge empires, no matter how powerful. Ja Asantewa showed that leadership has no gender. Courage belongs to anyone who dares to rise. These are not just stories of the past. They are blueprints of resilience, wisdom, and unity. Today, across Africa, their names still echo. Streets, monuments, and songs keep their legacies alive. Modern freedom fighters drew strength from their stories. The spirit of resistance that Shaka and Samory embodied inspired the struggles for independence. In the 20th century, their message is timeless. No empire lasts forever, but courage can last for eternity. These were not just warriors. They were architects of hope, guardians of identity, and voices of defiance in a world that tried to silence them. Shaka Zulu, the strategist who built an empire of fear and respect. Samory Touré, the lion who defied France for 16 relentless years, and countless others. Warriors who remind us that Africa was never conquered quietly. This is the truth hidden in shadows. This is the fire that still burns. This is Africa Untold. If you believe these stories must live on, subscribe, share, and let the world hear what they tried to erase.